There's no more comic book movies coming out this year. We've got more TV shows, but no more movies. So today I'm going to stop and rank all 8 2025 comic book movies from the worst to the best. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know your ranking of every 2025 comic book movie that you saw. My list is not the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. And let's get started. In last, The Old Guard 2. I finally watched this movie just last night in order to be able to make this video. If you don't know, The Old Guard is based off of a comic book, a graphic novel. The original film came out in 2020, and I actually enjoyed that movie a good bit at the time. I don't know if that was simply because it was COVID year and we weren't having theatrical releases, so Old Guard on Netflix was the big release of the summer, or if it was just a better film than this one, but this was a very unsatisfying watch. I think a little bit of that is that they switched out directors between movies and the fight choreography just didn't seem to be as captured as well by this director as by the previous director, and so the moves weren't as cool, they weren't shot as clearly. There were a few different times in the movie where something happened and we paused and rewound to try and even understand exactly what had happened, where they were trying to incorporate in the immortality and the healing stuff into fights. It was just kind of confusing. But probably more importantly, this felt like a film that they had about maybe 3 hours of story that they were looking to tell across 2 movies. And instead of finding a way to make that into one movie with a reasonable runtime, they decided to split it into 2 2-hour movies. And so this film feels padded out and like half of a story. That not a lot happens in the movie. There's a lot of lore, people sitting down explaining powers, people sitting down explaining their relationships, but there's not a ton of plot here. And you're watching it and you're like, man, there's not a whole lot left in the film. How are they going to resolve all these different plot lines? And you realize, oh, they're not. It's a gigantic cliffhanger. And just watching it, it felt to me that it ended like 60% of the way through the story. In this, like when you're padding out so much of your runtime and it feels so incomplete, you just should have made one 2-hour and 15-minute long movie. And instead they split it in half, and because the reception to this hasn't been necessarily the best and viewership, I don't know if we'll ever get that part 3. So it just feels like all of these dangling plot threads. It literally ends with people walking off like, let's go get them. I go first. No, I go first. And I don't know if we'll ever get the follow-up to it. So it just feels like just so much like half of a story with so much, just everything is too long, just talking way too long about everything. And it's confusing. We kept pausing like, wait, what does this mean? What's going on with this? And it just, for how much time they spend explaining everything, you're still kind of confused, and that's never a good sign. Number 7, Captain America: Brave New World. And this one is just really frustrating because it is a little bit of a holdover from before the MCU started to revamp things and improve their development process. There are things here that I did enjoy that for the first time in a long time, the MCU felt like a cohesive universe again, where what happens over there matters here. And we're pulling from, it's following up many different plot lines from several different films. But that's also kind of the problem here, that it's a Captain America movie, but on a plot level, it's primarily a sequel to The Incredible Hulk and Eternals. So it's just like this really strange combination of like pulling things together, which I did like, but pulling an odd set of things together. And the character with an arc is not our lead character. It's not Sam. It's the president. It's Thunderbolt. And so it's just very odd structuring. Sam kind of, like, well, he's the character we are following. He still feels second fiddle to other characters and other plot lines. He's overshadowed in his own movie, which is really frustrating if you're going to give him the franchise. And just beyond that, it's a movie that very infamously went through reshoots. to fix the movie, not classic scheduled in advance reshoots to fill in the gaps. These were corrective reshoots in order to fix problems where they added characters, they cut characters, they changed subplots, they moved things around.
What's going on with Captain America Brave World? Are you still in it?
Releases in February. I wish it the best, but I am not a part of that. The script went through a lot of rewrites and reshoots, and so what I was there to do, essentially my role got either repurposed or completely erased.
And when you're watching the movie, you can feel that. You can feel it's duct taped together with rewrites and reshoots. And when you move to the third act, it's very unsatisfying. For a Hulk showing up, it's not very exciting at all because Sam is not a compelling foe for a Hulk. And there's no real tension in it. So a movie that there's good things in there, but overall is very lackluster and mediocre. Today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh. Fall is almost here. That means cooler nights, craving heartier meals, and wanting something warm and satisfying. This season, HelloFresh has had a massive upgrade with their biggest menu yet. HelloFresh has doubled their menu. That means you can choose from 100 options each week. Likewise, you can feel great because their menu is even healthier with high protein and veggie-packed recipes. Here's the part that I love. You can get steak and seafood delivered to your door every week, no extra cost. There's 3 times more seafood on the menu now at no extra cost. I'm not a cook, not a chef. They deliver the exact ingredients in the right proportions with clear directions on how to make these delicious meals. Therefore, even someone like me that does not know what they're doing is able to cook an amazing meal. The best way to cook just got better. Go to HelloFresh.com/Sean Chandler 10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/Sean Chandler 10FM to get 10 free meals plus free item for life. Number 6, Red Sonja. The reason I'm including Red Sonja is because the version of Red Sonja that people normally think of goes back to the comics from like 1970. There are roots back to Robert E. Howard, of course, but the character in Robert E. Howard's books is very different from what Marvel turned the character into with the Conan combinations and stuff. And like, even Mary Jane in Spider-Man in some comics is an ancestor of Red Sonja. So there's like deep ties to like Marvel comics back in the day. This is a movie with a budget 1/10 of Captain America Brave New World, if you believe the lower reported budget for Captain America Brave New World. And for a lot of reasons, that's why it's a movie that I enjoyed more. It's a $17 million film trying to tell a big sword and sorcery story. It's a little bit Gladiator, it's a little bit Fight the Empire. It's trying to tell a big, ambitious story with very limited resources, and I can respect that. There's absolutely some lower budget CGI in here, but it's also a movie that was the compromise. If you want this movie to get made, there's going to have to be compromises with the VFX, and you're going to have to cut some corners to make it happen because big studios aren't going to give this genre $100 million anymore. So you're getting the version that's done on the cheap. And for what it was, I enjoyed it. I got the fantasy adventure that I wanted, the mystical version of Gladiator. I thought that was kind of fun. Absolutely, it is a more niche film. If you are really pulled out of a movie by cheap CGI, this probably won't be the film for you. There's certainly elements with the acting where you wish they could have gotten more expensive actors. But if you enjoy Red Sonja, if you enjoy the genre, and you're okay with some of the compromises due to budget, there's a lot of fun to be had. Number 5, The Toxic Avenger. This one does have its origins in a 1980s movie, not in a comic book. It is a superhero story, so I'm cheating. I just like to talk about more things rather than fewer things. Now, to be perfectly clear, I actually watched this movie 2 years ago at Fantastic Fest at its world premiere. And then basically they couldn't get a distributor for it. And so it finally came out this month or at the beginning. I don't remember if it was the end of last month, the beginning of this month or whatever. But I saw it 2 years ago and the movie might have changed a little bit since I saw it, but I had a good time with it. You have to go in knowing what a trauma movie is, which is these are trashy, schlocky, intentionally offensive movies. They are built on edgelord humor, and the trick of what this movie is that they're trying to do a more polished 21st century of 80s trash cinema. What does polished trash cinema look like? I don't really know, but I think they did at least a decent enough job of doing a modern version of trash cinema that was still vulgar and offensive, but used the tricks and the tools of our time. It's a little bit more of a plot-based film than the pure simplicity of the original one. So for what it was, once again, I enjoyed it. Number 4, Dogman. Now, my kids have been obsessed with the Dogman books for many, many, many years now. They have the entire set, and the books are comics. It's what they are, and so for me, it qualifies to be on this list. This is absolutely not a movie that is designed for me, but it was an entertaining enough movie. It's kind of fascinating to watch it with my kids who are like experts on the Dogman lore, and they're like, well, this is pulled from this book, and this is pulled from this book, and this is pulled from this book. Why did they change this detail? Oh man, they simplified that story. Like, they're doing the whole nerd thing that normally I do, but they're doing it with something that I have no knowledge outside of what they have shared with me. So it's from the same guy that did Captain Underpants, so same kind of chaotic energy, same juvenile humor, just this time with this dog cop man and the insanity that kind of comes along with that. So, like I said, not one that is, designed for me, but movie it was well made and it catered to its appropriate audience. Real quick before I give you my top 3, remember to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what is your ranking of the 2025 comic book movies? And if you want to throw in some of the animated ones that are direct to video that I don't include in my lists or something else, go for it. Also, almost all of these I have posted a full review with my extended thoughts on the film besides the Old Guard 2, which I watched for the first time just yesterday. Otherwise, the rest of these I've shared many, many, many other thoughts on them. In third, Thunderbolts. And to be perfectly clear, pretty big gap between 3 and 4. Numbers 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 on the list. All kind of in this, enjoyable enough. For different reasons I enjoyed them, was frustrated, disappointed by them, but like in that enjoyable enough category. And then top 3 on here are all movies that I really enjoyed. And in the case of the Thunderbolts, they found a way to take a bunch of characters that most people did not care about and convert them into this earthbound Guardians of the Galaxy. This found family story. The ragtag group, the losers, the B-Vengers, whatever you want to say, they took the B team and they used that as the advantage for the story. They are very flawed characters with deep regrets, and they use that as the theme for the movie. It's about purpose, it's about depression, it's about mental health. And most Marvel movies aren't about something in that sense. And just right there, it stood out as a Marvel movie. Adding to that, for the third act, instead of just doing another big, gigantic CGI battle, they started pulling inspiration from Michael Gondry and films with like dream logic and did this trippy world, and they did a lot of it practically.
There's a lot of grounded stuff in this movie and a lot of grounded action. There is a whole surrealist side to the film, and I think that traditionally in this world, you might, lean pretty hard on visual effects to do that.
It became this visual manifestation of the movie's themes about mental health. And that's refreshing. It's different. It's not just doing the same thing that they've done a million times before. And so for me, this movie really was a nice return to form for the MCU. Our runner-up, Superman. Now, I love the Superman character. I went into this movie very excited because I'm a big fan of James Gunn and was just very curious what he was going to be able to do with an A-list character. And he delivered this populated, very comic booky world that was just a fun place to be with all of these great side characters, and had this story that kind of even treated a character arc a little bit differently. It's not really so much about Superman changing so much as realizing that the things about himself that maybe he wants to change or doesn't understand, it's accepting his place in this world and realizing how that matters. Who he is matters in the world that he's in. And it ends up having that kind of this inspiring sense to it with the way that it kind of handles that about the character. There's just like so many little things in it that you couldn't make a Superman movie like this 20 years ago, both for technological reasons, but also just the public's acceptance of the weird and the quirky on a mainstream level. But James Gunn understands we've gotten used to that over the last 20 years. So it just dives into the deep end, and we've got a dog with a cape, talking robots, kaiju, pocket universes. It just fully embraces the weird, the quirky, the wacky, and goes for it. And because of that, it just feels like a comic book brought to life. It feels like the Justice League cartoons from 20 years ago, Justice League Unlimited. Feels like a live action version of that. And only thing kind of holding it back from that top spot is it treats the sensational and the catastrophic as so common that while big, gigantic things are happening, none of them have nearly as big of an impact as they should, because the movie treats them like, yeah, I mean, it's Tuesday, another kaiju shows up. And so it kind of loses some of that epicness that I feel could have been in the movie, with a slight recalibration of the tone and the seriousness of certain events. And that just held it back from just having the weightiness that was almost there. But coming in first place for me will be the Fantastic Four First Steps. And kind of piggybacking on what I just said about Superman, the thing that made me kind of slightly prefer Fantastic Four was that I did feel the weight of this movie. It felt like more impactful, that it's about catastrophic things happening, and the movie allows you to feel that and see the reaction to the world and the fear, the division, the unification, the working together. The movie allows that to happen. And for me, that's what elevated this to the number one spot in this video. A year from now, any one of these top three could be the number one pick. The order could completely change with time. There's not a big gap between the top three on the list. But overall, the thing that for me that really worked with Fantastic Four is that they just did such a wonderful job of creating this retro future alternate Earth where everything seems a little familiar, but is always different. Every little detail seems interesting to look at. Whether they're recording on records, when you're walking down the street, you're looking at the billboards and the brands. It just felt like every corner you could turn around it and there's a new adventure to be had. And there's all these little details about a society under the ground and implying a whole world to explore while telling a cohesive story. That, to me, was the magic of this film. It took me away to a different time and a place and immersed me in a world, and I loved that. Even the way that it kind of used news broadcasts, interviews. This is kind of an odd comparison, but parts of it reminded me of like the Michael Bay Transformers movies, and even like his Pearl Harbor, Armageddon, where he'd have these movies about these world-shattering events taking place, and it would kind of cut to showing people's reactions and in cities and news broadcasts, and just made the story feel like big, sweeping, and epic. That's in those Michael Bay movies, and that's in here too. And I think it's like really effective at making this global story, despite the actual narrative itself being only about 4 people in one building. Like it's just like it is a really interesting job of being a very isolated film and a very global film and a galactic film at the exact same time. And even the way that it handled some of the action set pieces, where the space chase is like a comic book movie version of Interstellar, which is fascinating. It's interesting. It's like, yeah, like Interstellar is this very like cerebral sci-fi movie, and let's add into it a lady on a surfboard. And to that, I also enjoyed these new versions of the Fantastic Four, and they really felt like a family. So for me, this one, in a year where there was 3 comic book movies that are all really close, fighting for those top spots, the one that right now I have on top is Fantastic Four.
The Fantastic Four suck, right? They suck, full stop.
Remember, my list is not the right list, it's just my list, and I'd love to see yours down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.